Hello, welcome back to the Leinster Listen. I'm your host Mick Lennan. You're in episode 2 right now, and this is the review of the previous game that we just played. Fantastic result for Leinster, back on the horse again. I think we went up one league position again in the URC. We played the Dragons in Rodney Park, and the score there was Dragons 10, Leinster 24. If you're with us for my preview, you'd know I'm not a betting man, or at least I shouldn't be, because my prediction was 19 points to Dragons, 21 to Leinster. Without getting too much into it right now, could have been a bit closer if something had went the Dragons' way. But look, I'm not a betting man. There we are. 19-21 is my prediction. The actual result being 10-24. We bagged that extra bonus point. In a line, if I was to give a proper review of that, not bad, could be better. We definitely need more discipline, and look, it is what it is. So without further ado, let's get into the full review. So we started off pretty quick on the mark there. In the 4 minutes mark, we got a try, Alex Soroka. A real, hardy pushover try, hugely strong force to get that over. We was pushed through. I think it was 3 defenders. We had 2 men pushing him over as well. Looked like it could have been held up if it had fallen differently, but Alex Soroka is a big man, got it down, and we had our first try, bringing us up to 5 points within the first 4 minutes. Fantastic start. Conversion sadly missed by Harry Byrne, but look, we won't hold that against him. We went on then to give away a very easy penalty in the 8th minute to the Dragons, which thankfully had hit the upright and came back in, and we played that out and got it out of our own 5 metres, so not too bad there. The next few minutes we ended up with a couple of scrums. We got a couple of scrum penalties from that. Our scrums looking really strong in the first half. Big men, our 2 props really playing into the Dragons' falling points there. A lot of elbows going down, a lot of knees falling on the Dragon side, and I think we had the referee pretty well on our side then for the scrums from there on. He was looking at pretty much anything that was going wrong on the Dragon side. So fantastic play to have, and again I keep falling back into talking about it, but it's hard to forget. But when the international scrums were failing on us, it's nice to see that the lads there were able to pull up the socks and get those scrums under control. So fantastic work there. Followed on then to the 29th minute, we got a yellow card, Tierman Mangan. He got a yellow, not specifically for his fault in particular. We were giving away way too many offsides within the 5 metre mark. Not great. He just happened to be the last one. I think we ended up giving 6 offsides within 4 minutes, and they just really played into it, and rightly so. The referee had to blame someone. Unfortunately, Mangan was the last infringer there, and he was gone to the bin for 10 minutes. This was quickly followed on the 31st minute by a try by Matthew Screech. Lots of pick and go action there. Standard rugby was fantastic to look at. The composure and patience was savage by the Dragons there. You couldn't fault them at all. They were like every 5 seconds the ball was being taken off from the ruck, and they were smashing through, making inches, but inches get over the line eventually. So look, they got there. Tinnis de Beer, he converted that to bring the Dragons ahead in the 31st minute, 7-5. Unfortunately, the cards weren't they weren't keeping away from us again, and I think we have an Irish curse going on with us here. But in the 39th minute, Scott Penny, he got a yellow card again, mostly because we gave away so many penalties, and he was never back on side, made a tackle, and he was punished for it. So right before half time, we were 13 men only on the pitch. But again, look, we held our own there. The Dragons had possession for those last. I think they played over about 4 minutes into the half time before the ball went dead. But look, we held our own. Not too bad for 13 men on the pitch, and not to mention there as well that we could have been in a very bad position there with 13 men, and already being down at half time would not have been the ideal position to be in. plus starting into the second half with 13 men also didn't help. So yeah, we held our own, but again, us Irish, I think we're complete magnets to these sin bins, so we really need to get that under control. Straight into the second half, like the first half, a 45th minute try from Josh Kenny. I think JJ Kenny is what he's going by, from what I heard the commentators call it. It was a fantastic pass by Frawley at the very end, out to Josh Kenny on the wing. Frawley really pulled in the tackle. He drew the tackler in and passed at the last second right over to Kenny, who was taking a running mark to it, and he just smashed over into the try line on the far side. This was actually then converted by Harry Byrne, brought us right back in control, 7-12 then on the 45th minute. But you have to put it to the Dragons. They had an absolutely perfect restart kick. I think all of our players thought it was going deeper. I don't know if the wind caught it slightly. We couldn't really see that in the cameras, but it drew some of our forwards forward to try and grab it, and we ended up knocking that on deep into our own half, which then eventually resulted, unfortunately again, in another penalty deep into our own half again. 51st minute penalty, I believe it was. Angus O'Brien neatly put that over and brought Dragons 10-12. So really reducing our lead that we already had 5 minutes prior, to bring that game right back into the Dragons' hands if they needed it. They did need it, sorry, if they wanted it. 55th minute, we had a little bit of a controversy. We had an overturned try. We got over the line, but the TMO called it back. And this was actually presented by a dangerous clear out in the ruck by Jack Boyle. And look, I'll get into it a little bit later when we talk about maybe some discipline, but he was lucky that there was bodies there inside the ruck to soften the land. I honestly think we probably could have got another card from it, and he's lucky that there was people there to really soften that blow, because he pulled the player over the horizontal, and like the legs were in the air and he landed on his back. But look, lucky enough, we'll talk about that later after this. This was then followed on about 3 minutes later by another Josh Kenny, JJ Kenny try. I think that's his fourth try in 2 appearances. Absolutely stellar. Fantastic winger. I think he's going to go places here. This was actually backed by Snyman with his huge one-hand offloads. I think he did one prior to this, which went to Max Egan, kind of went to ground, but Max Egan carried it. Went again forward. Snyman got it again. And on the falling part of his tackle, offloads it one hand directly to Harry Byrne. Harry Byrne makes about 10 metres of gain there, goes to the ground. It's passed out then to Josh Kenny, and he just ploughs through and gets another try for us. He absolutely flattened his counterpart number 11 on the way in as well. The tackler had absolutely no hope. So it was great to see him get it. And better again, Harry Byrne. Sorry, Harry. You didn't get this one. You actually missed that one. But look, 10-17. I can't fault Harry. Maybe he was a bit winded after getting flattened by the 3 men it took to take him down prior to that. But that brought the score to about 10-17. So not too bad again. A 1 score gap. But we always like to be a little bit further than that. We don't like draws. So it's never easy winnings after you get a try and we're only 7 points ahead. So about 63 minutes in, then Scott Penny got the ball. This actually didn't result in a score or anything, but I just had to bring attention to it that he made about 25 metres running on his own, with a lot of Dragons players afraid to tackle him. And a big man, I wouldn't tackle him either, to be fair. He's a complete Land Rover on the pitch. But there was a bit of shirt pulling there even, but eventually Angus O'Brien brought him down. But look, it was a lovely little run. Then right after that, I think it was about the 69th minute, where we had that big piece, which I know everyone has seen so far, the controversial tackle within the 5 metres, right on the line. And yeah, look, not entirely sure how I feel about it. We'll talk more about it later. Just the bottom line is I actually agree with the referee, and I'll talk more about this a little bit later once we're finished with this review. This then wasn't the end of the woes for the Dragons. About 4 minutes later, the 78th minute, RG Snyman, caught a knock on ball from a kick. Again, Harry Byrne, fantastic kick and play. Right, he might have missed 2 conversions, but can't fault him on the kicks. Knock on ball from that kick. RG Snyman just in the right place, right time, catches it. And I'm fairly sure he just walked that in. I can't remember exactly if he was running, but the size of the man, he could have done it himself. He went on maybe 10, 15 metres of a run, off-handed a tackler, as if they ever had a chance really bring them down. And, in true RG Snyman fashion, was sliding through, hit the camera, I think, at the end with a big smile on his face. So that brought us a little bit further away from the Dragons' 10 points, which was then converted. A very hard conversion to take as well. Harry Byrne got it. So redeemed himself with that one. The score then, and the final score, as the whistle blew, 10-21. Alright, so overall opinion, I suppose, on that. Look, fantastic start, both right into the first 5 minutes and also into the first 5 minutes of the second half. You can't really fault us for really getting back into these games and really showing that we can play stellar rugby. Unfortunately, we did have a shaky middle. We had a couple of yellow cards. I think we had 3 yellow cards overall. We'll talk a little bit more about discipline later. And we had relatively good defence apart from these penalties that we are given within the 5 metres. And we do need to improve them. With that, our scrums were strong. We had the referee on our side for the scrums. I think Salmani got penalised for one of the scrums. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I couldn't see exactly what he was doing to be infringement and to infringed upon that. And look, maybe some things the cameras can't see, but he looked even confused himself from it. But overall, the scrums were strong. They were solid. We weren't giving them anything. We weren't giving them an inch. And any time that we were shown to be the stronger side, the Dragons had an elbow down or a knee down, and we ended up getting either a free kick or a penalty from them. So fantastic work there. There were some silly mistakes, some handling errors, but overall, I think even looking at the stats of that game, like the number of tackles, I think we only had missed 13 tackles overall according to URC. We had an 87% even tackle success rate. So look, defense wise, I think we're doing pretty good. I think the only problem there was that, and we will talk about this later, is that we just have to improve the discipline when it comes to those high tension sections. There was actually a few fisticuffs happening, a couple of fights. One of them actually resulted in the Dragons getting penalised, even though they had the ball. Like they had won the ruck, they were going to get a penalty, and it actually got overturned because one of their players just came in and started a row after the first time there was a couple of grabs and swings, no punches as per usual. But yeah, the discipline in terms of fighting, not fantastic. But look, I love to see a bit of a fight. I love to see the tensions being high. It always draws the crowd in, and a couple of lads saying, go on, burst them. But we don't condone violence here, and we don't want that to happen on the pitch. But it is funny to see these big men squaring up to each other, and I tell you, I wouldn't want to be a ref trying to pull them apart. And I suppose just another last minute opinion on that. It was a fantastic level of Leinster fans in the crowd there over in Rodney Park, and I do have to give a great shout out to the official Leinster Supporters Club. They're always organising transfer buses for away games. They're a great bunch of people. I actually volunteer myself every now and again when I can. I put the flags on the pitch to do the sea of blue, and they always make the game so special. Even especially the away ones where there wouldn't be that kind of support level there. They always make them feel special. And also they're always looking for volunteers. So do reach out and try to get involved. More the merrier. Right. So let's kind of dive into a little bit about penalties here and the discipline or lack thereof that we had, which is kind of it's disappointing in a way, because I think we had one try, and I know we scored pretty soon after, but one try overturned. We had 3 yellow cards. There could have been more cards. It is a dangerous place to be in. I think we gave 17 penalties away, with the majority of them being in the defence penalties. And I think there was one point there, and I think I mentioned it before, but when we ended up getting a yellow card to Diarmaid Bangan for being offside. We had given 6 offside penalties within 4 minutes within the 5 metres. And it's just like those are the kind of things that really kill the momentum for us. And we get penalised for it. We lose a man. We're 14 players down. 14 players only on the pitch. It's not great. It is something that we probably have to focus on. And I do understand that these players don't play together, week in, week out. We were missing a lot of international players. We did have to form a new squad essentially for this this game against the Dragons. But it just feels like, maybe we just need to put a lot more discipline into those offsides. I don't have the stat for the offsides, but if we gave away 6 within 4 minutes in one section there, and we actually got another yellow card for never onside again, but another offside rule, we do have to focus on that. We have to make sure that we're not giving away easy penalties like that. With our defense is so good otherwise. Like there must have been 17 or 18 movements there for the Dragons to try and get through our defense. So we have the strength there, we have the numbers, we have the big pack to keep them back. It's just those small, split second infringements that really just hit us hard. And then when that happens, you tend to lose the referee if you keep that up. And I know he should be unbiased, the TMO should be unbiased, but realistically we all know that the referee sees a lot of these infringements and you're not improving. He's going to call you out on them. He's going to be focused specifically on that for the next few minutes. And I think we fall to that so often, and I think we just need to focus on that. And I think if we could narrow that down, like we only gave away 4 attack penalties. Like that's not bad. Like I've seen, you see an awful lot more of that generally. But if we were even just to show the difference with the Dragons' defence penalties, they only gave away 7, and we were in there 5 metres tons. So where is the problem coming from that we're hitting those offside rules where we're coming in late in the ruck, we're coming in the side in the ruck, we're doing fall into these silly mistakes that we'll talk about in a few minutes with the likes of Jack Boyle going over the horizontal. It's like losing the head, I suppose, too much. And is it the pressure? I don't know. It's I don't have the answers, unfortunately, but maybe, and I'm sure our defence coaches are going to be looking at that saying the exact same thing. 17 penalties conceded, 13 of which are defence penalties. We need to improve in that. Let's move over to I suppose the controversial tackle. I know I said I'd talk about this more. And look, we've all seen the videos. We've all seen it slowed down. We've all seen it sped up. We've all seen different angles of it. I did already say that I agree with the referee. And look, I understand I'm biased. It's a Leinster rugby podcast. Obviously, I'm going to say, yeah, no, of course. No, that wasn't the yellow card. It wasn't a penalty, no way. But I will say I have watched it meticulously back. I've watched it in slow motion. I've watched it in full speed. And I have a few opinions here, I have to say. Just even listening to the referee on it, he explained it perfectly. The TMO was in agreement. His second official was also giving him points as to why it shouldn't have been foul play. That alone should be enough for us all to say, right, well, they've explained it enough, and there you go, that's the decision made. But like everything in social media, we're all going to have opinions, and let's just get into that. First and foremost, he was at the very same height tackle as Deeney beside him. Like, he was crouched, he was low, his arms were in the textbook wrap position. If they weren't in the wrap position, 100% foul play. But because they were there, you can't penalise him on making sure he wraps the tackle. As well as that, the player was already so low after that initial tackle. And it wasn't even the Deeney tackle. Deeney and Scott Penny came in at the same time. The initial tackle actually happened just before that to bring him way lower than he was. So if Scott Penny is coming in and Deeney are coming in as well, at that exact same height, how can you really penalise him for having went through the motions of being low, under the sternum, arms in a wrap position, and he wasn't even coming in at speed. Like he's on the try line. He's making the tackle as the last tackle before the try line. So yeah, there's going to be force there, but it's not as if he's coming rapid flying on the line and throws his shoulder across. So look, yeah, to be honest, I agree with the referee there. I can't see how. I would just call that a rugby incident. You're in a ruck, you've gotten tackled by 3 players, you're falling, and unfortunately, the tackler's arm, who was trying to wrap on you, hits you in the face. Yeah, it is what it is. But look, I do feel for the Dragons there. There's a lot of interpretations happening with the refs and the TMOs, and I suppose if you're looking at even a few weeks ago when Ty Byrne got sent off against New Zealand, Chicago, you put those two side by side and you're wondering, well, one of them was a red card and one of them wasn't even foul play. So you can see what actually the Dragons are feeling here, and the Welsh fans overall, as well as Munster fans who obviously will try and dog us into the ground for every tackle. But yeah, look, it is what it is. I honestly just don't see where it was foul play. But I suppose coming into that, where I did see foul play, and I probably on the flip side here, and I don't understand how we didn't get a yellow card for it, was those dangerous or silly mistakes that we had. So the like of Jack Boyle's dangerous clear out, which went over the horizontal. That for me actually was the moment where I was like, whoa, okay, now we're in trouble. We're going to lose another man on the pitch here, who we really need, especially in our scrums. And that was just a penalty. And I get it's when they talk about mitigating factors I think is on the onus of the tackler. So did Jack Boyle know that there was a load of bodies there that he was going to flip a lad over onto, and then he didn't fall far? I don't think so, and I think maybe that was one of the moments that we should be focusing on rather than that one, which was a pure rugby incident prior. I do think tempers flaring, they're big men, they're not thinking, but that one was a very silly mistake. It kind of brought me back to James Ryan's unnecessary clear out in the ruck against Africa, which denies another try there. But look, I don't want to get negative on this. These lads are fantastic players. They can't be defined by one silly mistake. They put their bodies on the line day in, day out. I respect them for it. But there is, just in terms of that, if we were to talk about the refereeing decisions, the one we should have been focusing on was the one where Jack Boyle tipped someone over the horizontal. I don't see how Scott Penny being included in a rugby incident is a big thing. And I think it was more so that it was 5 minutes before the game finished and they really needed a converted try to even the game. That was what was actually focused on. I will talk slightly about the next game we have. It's the Harlequins. So this is our first European game of the season. We're at home. It's going to be a cracker of a game. I just love the European season. It's fantastic. The level of play, and I know the URC has that as well, but the level of play in the European games it's just crazy. And it's great to get a few of those English clubs over, a couple of the French clubs. We love to see it. We love to play them. We hate losing against them. I hope we don't do it this year. Really hope to put the effort in to make sure that we just be solid. Unfortunately, as you might have heard, and I'll talk more in the preview episode on Friday, but James Ryan will probably be missing for this game, as well as a plethora of lads who are injured. But James Ryan is going to be out of this game at the very least, and then maybe the next one if he doesn't go to tackle training, but I'm sure he will. So yes, that's it. Folks, thanks again. Thanks so much for joining. As per usual, you'll find us on the Leinster Listen on most socials. If you want to look at this on YouTube, we also put all of these episodes on YouTube as well as part of videos. We might venture into making recording these as vodcasts. Vodcast. Yeah, I'm sure that's one of the terms. But yeah, we might get videos for these as well. But yes, please do follow us on the Leinster Listen. You'll find this podcast on all your major podcast outlets. And once again, thanks a million for joining, and hopefully we have a good week training ready for the Harlequins. Thanks, folks.